everyone. Welcome to a Facebook Live. We have not done one of these in forever. Oh my gosh, it has been a minute. I'm a little frazzled right now because so many reasons. Oh my gosh, it's just been a morning. Anyway, yes, welcome to our crowd calendar Facebook Live. We have Fred Hazelton joining us. He is one of our statisticians here at TouringPlans, and we're really just going to discuss the crowd calendar. If you're wondering why I'm looking over here, I'm pulling up the chat on my computer so that I can look at your questions and comments here. I also reached out on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook to see what your questions were in advance so we can kind of cover those. Oh, I see Fred joined, so I'm going to see if I can invite him. Add. Oh my God, phones. This is how, not on top of things I am today. That's my life, guys. Hi, Fred. How's it going?
Hey, Angela. Good. How are you?
Good. I'm sorry I don't have my headphones in.
No problem.
Rushing central today.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's Monday. So.
Oh, we have Kelly joining us.
Hey, Kelly.
So, Fred, how was your weekend?
Weekend was good. Yeah, weekend was pretty good.
Yeah, did you do anything fun? Oh my gosh, where's my...
Not really. My kids are out of school, so it's just trying to, get them into summer mode. And
yeah, are they doing any activities?
Oh yeah, they're always out doing something. I got golfers, I got baseball players, I got mountain bikers.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
They're super busy.
Yeah. It's not going to be quiet around here this summer. So, in fact, I got one right now who's packing up his bike to head to the mountains. So.
So you have them nearby, the mountains?
Yeah, we can get to the Gatineau Hills, which are about 25 minutes from our place here.
Oh, that's really neat. My daughter and I just started rock climbing, so that's our new thing.
Oh, fun.
I'm not brave enough to go outside to rock climb because I've only done it twice. But my husband's like, hey, they have a 5-hour outdoor course that you could try. I'm like, no,
wow,
not yet.
Baby steps.
Like a more controlled environment. Let's say hi to the commenters. So hello, Kelly. We said hi to Kelly. Hello, Derek, Sylvina, Danielle, Brianna, Harley. Let's see. Let's see. Address is invalid. I don't know what that means. Anyway, let us know if you can see us, and if you're watching, hello to Jeff.
Hi, everybody.
So, crowd calendar. I've had questions. I didn't ask me anything on Instagram. If you don't follow us on Instagram, you should. We post a lot of in-park content, a lot of footage and pictures. We have someone who goes to the parks and films, what she sees. It's really fun. But it didn't ask me anything where I answered your questions, kind of like what we do here. And we had people asking about the Disneyland crowd calendar and how we don't talk about that as much. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And I guess we will start things off by kind of doing a refresh on our mid-month crowd review of Walt Disney World. So, Fred, do you kind of want to jump right in with that and kind of talk about what we've been seeing so far this summer?
Sure, yeah. It's been a really interesting summer because there's a lot of new things going on across all three properties that we cover. We've got, if you've been following the crazy lines at Hagrid's motorcycle adventure over at Universal, that's kind of wreaking havoc on those parks right now. We've got a pretty slow summer going on at Walt Disney World, where it looks like people are basically postponing their vacations. They're not going until the Star Wars Galaxies Edge stuff opens up in August there. And then we've got Disneyland Resort, where it's already open and in full swing. And in fact, today's the first day where you can access Galaxy's Edge without being requiring a reservation like they had the past few weeks. So I've actually been enjoying watching our colleague Guy Selga reporting live from Disneyland this morning. So that's been interesting. But in terms of Disney World, yeah, we're actually seeing fairly steady crowds. Our crowd calendar from Magic Kingdom has been doing very well the past couple months.
Yeah.
We've only missed by more than 2 points, I think, once since early May. And almost every day we're bang on or within 1, which is our target. So that's been very good. I was just reviewing the other parks this morning. Animal Kingdom is one park where there's some weird things going on.
Yep.
Primeval World has been down. I don't really know much about why it's been down, but it's basically shut down and hasn't been running at all for the past week or so.
Interesting. Are we
So
still having, are you still seeing those issues? I know we talked about this, gosh, was it maybe like February or March? We talked where Animal Kingdom was seeing some really, really off wait times.
yeah.
Is that still happening?
No, that's not happening. In fact, it's settled down quite a bit, and our crowd predictions have been really good up until, like I said last week, when it was about 10 days ago when Primeval World went down. We also had some weather, some heavy rain in Disney World the last couple of weeks, so that's been affecting things. But you think Primeval World, not really a super headliner, but if you're in
Right.
that area of the park, there's nothing really else to do,
Right.
So if you're over in Dino Land, I mean, there's not much to do. So you're going to have a pretty quick visit there, which means you're likely to go and ride something else. So we've seen crowd levels go up at Animal Kingdom, mostly because of this Primeval World. We've also seen Dinosaur. We think Dinosaur is only running at 2/3 capacity. If you remember, they've got kind of the 3 loading areas there. Based on the wait times we've been observing, we think it's only running 2 of those. We should actually send somebody to the park, or if somebody's in the Animal Kingdom this week, go check out Dinosaur and let us know how they're doing the loading area. I'll be curious to hear that. So Animal Kingdom's a little weird. The other 2 parks, I mean, the studios is kind of, we're waiting to see what's going to happen with the studios at the end of the summer. Between now and then, who knows? But yeah, there's lots going on.
What's really interesting to me is when we first got the dates for Galaxy's Edge at both parks, a lot of people, because we did a crowd calendar live, and we had a lot of people saying like, I'm going to change my dates. I'm going to go before then. I'm going to go after then. And then it's summer now and no one's going to Disney World and everyone's waiting. So, we had people who are like, I'm going to change my trips. I'm going to go after, I'm going to go before. And now there's no one in the parks.
Yeah, it's strange.
It is interesting to me that now people are waiting. Do you think that's the Disneyland effect? Or do you think it had to have been before that and people are just keeping their dates because it's too hard to move?
Yeah, well, it's a combination of that. In fairness, if you look at the previous 2 or 3 summers at Disney World, the crowd levels have been going down.
Yeah, true.
Summer, I think, is just becoming a much less appealing time to visit. It's so hot, it's so humid, you get a lot of rain. And we're seeing some evidence that families are a little bit more willing now than they had been in the past to take kids out of school to travel during the school year. So I think with all that coupled together, you're going to see lighter crowds. We're not seeing the 8s and 9s and 10s in the summer like we used to. We're seeing a lot more 5s, 6s, 7s, even less than that, especially when the weather is poor. So I think in general, summer's down. Then you add in the fact that people are waiting for Galaxy's Edge, and I think it's even a point lower. So.
And today we have so many Galaxy's Edge questions. Oh my gosh.
So do I.
Yeah. Not alone there. Did you have a chance to look over some of those?
I did, yeah.
Otherwise, I planned on interviewing you today anyway. Because
go ahead.
I'm not the stats person. Okay, let's see. Let me pull up my questions here. And in the meantime, let's see. More people. Hello, Moana from Hawaii, Janine, Suzanne, Jeff, Michael from Ireland, Ian. Let's see. Harley hopes Guy gets a Dole Whip for his suffering. Yeah, I mean,
we'll hook him up. Don't worry.
We will. We'll make sure he gets a snack and a break. Union mandated break. Brianna says hi from Raleigh. Carol, what did Carol say? I'm going September 15th. Is it going to be horrendous now because of Star Wars opening? Can you explain our crowd calendar and why for Disney's Hollywood Studios we're not seeing 9s and 10s, after Galaxy's Edge opens? Why we're not including that and how we track that?
Okay, it's well, when you explain it, I hope it's simple, but we'll see. Our crowd calendar is based purely on the wait times at the key attractions at the park.
Not people in the park.
Not people in the park. No, it's a proxy for the number of people in the park, but really we're focusing on wait times. We do that for a couple of different reasons. First of all, because most people judge their feeling of the crowd based on how long they have to wait in line. The parks are always full of people. I mean, there's no time of the year now where you can go when it's dead all day. So we base it on wait times. suppose we were to include the wait times at the new Star Wars Galaxy's Edge attractions. Well,
Right.
those wait times are going to be so high that the calendar would basically just be a 10 every day.
Which isn't helpful.
No, because if you go over to Tower of Terror and it's only 13 minutes, would you really call that a 10-day? I don't think so, because we want to encourage people to go to the parks on days when the other stuff is actually not too long of a wait.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is we basically exclude what's going on at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge until we've observed what the wait times are like there at least a year. So this is what we did for Flight of Passage and the Avatar section of Pandora at Animal Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Now, don't get me wrong. There is a huge bump in wait times at the other attractions when you have something big that opens up like this. So
Right.
when you see those 9s and 10s, 8s, 9s, and 10s that we've increased at the studios, it's because we expect there to be some kind of an overflow effect where lots of people are going to check out Galaxy's Edge, and then some of them are also going to go to the other parts of the park when they're finished, and that's going to increase some wait times there. So there is a bump, but we're not actually including the wait times at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge.
Do you think that by moving, all of the headliner attractions, as in, moving all the headliner attractions to the first tier and basically making all the shows the second tier and Fast Pass, do you think that's kind of in an effort to make all of the headliners stand by to make the lines move quicker?
I'm sure that's the idea. But this is kind of unprecedented. We don't really know how that's going to impact people's touring. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm not really sure how I would handle that. Like, what would I select as my fast passes? It's
Right.
hard to
Why
know
would
what the optimal way
anyone?
is going to be to tour, given
Right,
the new
because
tier structure. That's a big question that we have.
in case, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I didn't mean to do that, Fred. In case you don't know, basically all of the headliner attractions like Tower of Terror, Rock and Roller Coaster, they're all going to be moved in the Fast Pass tiers to the first tier, where normally it was like Toy Story, Midway Mania, and basically all the Toy
Right.
Story rides were in that tier. So you're only going to be able to pick one of those, and then the second tier is going to be pretty much just the shows at Hollywood
Yeah.
Studios. And a lot of people are upset about that because they're like, well, how do I tour? And I know Steve
Yeah.
Bloom was saying in the comments of that blog post that we did, just basically do 2 mornings at Hollywood Studios if you can, if you have
Yeah.
park hoppers, and just, do 2 mornings and get there early, rope drop, do your rides, and then save your fast passes for another park.
It's a great tip. Yeah, really. I think park hoppers are going to be really, really essential when Galaxy's Edge opens up, to be able to go and do the studios on a half day in the morning when everyone's rushing over to, like right now, I was looking at Disneyland in California, and there's I think it's 170-minute wait for Smuggler's Run, which is pretty close to what we predicted.
Yeah.
But Big Thunder Mountain's like 10 minutes. It's a walk on.
That's
So
crazy.
everybody's rushing to do the new stuff, which is totally reasonable. This is what happens.
Normal.
But imagine if you went to Disneyland for park opening today and just did Fantasyland and Adventureland.
Yeah.
You'd have walk-ons. It'd be like the quietest day ever until about noon or 1 o'clock. And
Well,
then,
and
leave the park and go over to DCA for the afternoon, and, you're set. I think it's a great strategy.
Brianna actually had a question about that, and I'm going to
Sure.
move over to the comments now because I know we're kind of ignoring you guys with my questions. Brianna said, why is Disneyland so empty today with no more reservations required for Galaxy's Edge?
Yeah, well, Galaxy's Edge is not empty. It's quite busy. But yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think what's happening is that, Disneyland is so driven by annual pass holders, that this is the first day that people can access Star Wars Galaxy's Edge without a reservation. So
Right.
they're going, but they're just doing Star Wars. They're not going to go and do the other parts of the park. So, it's actually really, really quiet. I think also, if you were just planning a vacation, and you were going to go to the parks, would you really go to the park today if you're not interested in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge? Probably not, because you're going to assume, look, it's going to be so crowded, it's going to be so many people moving around, and there are. But like I said, the other half of the park is really empty. So
It's so interesting to me how that's been the case since, Galaxy's Edge opens, and I know everyone's just waiting to see how they're going to do it for Disney World.
yeah,
I do. I mean, they have to increase capacity for who they if they do the reservation system, they have to increase the capacity that they did for Disneyland. I mean, it was just so low during the reservation period. What was it, like
Yeah,
5,000?
yeah, yeah, something like that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we don't really know officially exactly what's going to happen, but you would have to imagine that they're going to do something similar where you have to get a reservation to access the
Hmm.
land. I know that they did announce there's going to be some previews for annual pass holders, if I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken. Um, and in some ways, the the resorts are very similar, but in other ways they're very different. So, is Disney World going to have the same impact? There's a lot of people that are going to that go to Disney World, not for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, that just happen to plan their trip for
Hmm.
that time of year. Um, so, I think the other parks are going to be pretty similar to what they would normally be. Um, the question is, how crazy is it actually going to get? One thing
Yeah,
about Disneyland is that they kind of over marketed the fact that you needed a reservation. So
right.
the rest of, I mean, it was dead. I mean, there was, in fact, it was really, really quiet to the point where they started to add some promos to get people to come back. People just
Wow.
really avoided Disneyland. So World, is it going to be the same? I can't imagine that it would be, but I mean, who knows?
Well, and my question is it going to be as hyped up? Because now people have done it who have really wanted to,
Yeah,
It's going to be
yeah.
essentially the same land. So just, different park, different coast. So is it going to be as hyped up is my, curiosity. As far as the parks, the other parks, which you have mentioned in a blog post, we have talked about in a chat, you're expecting increases of 15 to 25% from what I remember,
Yeah,
with Animal Kingdom and Magic Kingdom being the highest
yeah, Animal
hikes.
Kingdom for sure. I think because it's kind of it has the most, well, Animal Kingdom has the most recent new land besides the new one that's coming at the studios. So I
Hmm.
think that's going to be, that's going to happen. I think now, given what we've seen at Disneyland, I think those estimates are probably a little bit high. I actually
Hmm.
think it might be more like 10 or 15% increase in the wait times. Um, but that's yet to be seen. I don't think people are going to notice a huge difference when they tour the Magic Kingdom and Epcot once Galaxy's Edge opens. Magic Kingdom has been so stable the last few months that I just don't see it changing between now and the end of the year, frankly. So I think if you're touring Magic Kingdom, you can pretty much go as status quo. However, if you're doing the studios or Animal Kingdom, you are going to have to do an optimized touring plan. I know that's blatant self promotion, but you really are. It's really going to
Hmm.
be your best friend because whenever there's a bunch of unknowns, like we don't really know what
Yeah.
the impact's going to be, you want
Hmm.
to have that touring plan optimized because it's going to save you all kinds of time. It's going to tell you how to avoid the bottlenecks. It's going to update live so that if something's very different than what we predicted, it's going to change it for you. You're really going to have to rely on those touring plans.
Well, and that's what a lot of people have been wondering is do these touring plans work like with this new fast pass tier system and everything? Yes, like our touring plans do optimize live, like Fred said. They work with you throughout the day. You can optimize the day before you go, the morning, while you're there. And I know like we're biased because we work for touring plans, but I have
Of
used
course.
them. I went to Walt Disney World last July. It was the week of 4th of July. Like I went home on the 4th of July and I used a touring plan the entire time. And I waited maybe 5 minutes at Magic Kingdom for
Oh,
rides
good.
like Haunted Mansion, Peter Pan's Flight, stuff like that. So they really do work. Um, I will put our website and a link to the touring plans after this stream so you can see that. Or I know Steve is watching. Maybe Steve, if you can put a link to our touring plan um, website and stuff, that would be great. Okay, I promise we're going to address your comments now because I have one by Judy right here ready to go. Do you expect the large increases in annual pass costs to affect the crowd levels?
I do not. No. I mean, as frustrating as it is for annual pass holders to have to pay more, there's a reason that they increase those passes. They increase them because people will basically pay them.
Yeah.
So no, that's not going to affect. Certainly not going to affect crowds. It might affect revenue in the short term, but no, I wouldn't expect that to impact your touring at all.
Will there ever be a point where they regress on prices, or do you
Oh,
think they'll just
sure.
always keep adding?
No, that I mean, like anything in the economy, there are downturns as much as there are upswings. We're in a huge upswing right now. I mean, things have been steadily getting better in terms of the economy for years. And so, not to be a pessimist, but we're kind of due for the next downturn.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like it's going to happen anytime soon. So, but if you look back, there were times, natural disasters, any kind of economic turmoil. There are times when there are deep discounts, and they'll happen again. But in the short to medium term, I think it's going to stay as it is now.
Well, it kind of just makes sense with all the things that are happening, with the 50th anniversary, like all of the additions with like the Epcot entrance, the Tron coaster, Guardians of the Galaxy, with all the new things, it just kind of makes sense. It's a pain and it's annoying, especially for people who have been annual pass holders for years, but it just makes sense. And didn't they just add like more perks to it or something? I can't remember. I
didn't read that, but that's possible.
I think maybe it was just like a dining discount. I don't think it was actually more than that. It was like a 20% off thing. I don't remember. But yeah, I mean, I hope that they do add more benefits for annual pass holders, because that was like a $200 increase for some of them.
Yeah, it was significant for sure.
That's a lot for people.
I mean, the one, like you say, like if you're going to pay more, what do you want? Well, you want more in return. And I mean, we had years where there wasn't really a lot of new stuff going on at the parks. Yep. You can't say that anymore. I mean, if you haven't been in 3 years, think of the things you can see now. You've got Toy Story Land, you've got Avatar, you've got Galaxy's Edge coming. I mean, there's all kinds of new things to check out. So, yeah, it's more expensive, but you're also getting, you're getting some more.
Yeah, and it's an exciting time to be at the parks for sure. But again, like I can see it's that sticker shock for sure.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's a lot of money for sure.
May says, do you have a real-time crowd tracker for Disneyland?
Real-time crowd tracker.
Like we kind of track the trends for attractions throughout the day.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a Disneyland subscription, you can see every current wait time that we have at Disneyland, every crowd level. At the end of every day, we update historical crowd levels, and then we predict into the next 365 days, just like we do for Disney World. So yeah, you can get everything, all the information, all the data we have for Disney World is available for Disneyland as well.
Yeah, what I like about it is, if you click on a certain attraction, it kind of shows you that day, like kind of what the trend is like.
Yeah.
And I think that's always really interesting to look at, to see like what it's like at 2 p.m. versus the end of the night, when it's kind of, if it's high, like for Flight of Passage, or trickling down for the night, So. Yeah,
that's good. That's one thing I like too about on the mobile app, is that it'll tell you not just what the current wait time is, but whether it's going up or down. So if you should, because if you're not following a touring plan, that's totally fine. I understand. Some people don't want the rigidity of, having to do step by steps. That's fine. But at least, arm yourself with the information of what's going on and what direction the wait times are going, so that you can make better decisions. There might be cases where you come to an attraction and it's a certain wait time, and the app will tell you, look, don't ride now, come back in 2 hours and it'll be a much lower wait. That kind of stuff is really helpful.
Isn't that in like different colors too? Like red, not ride right now, like green, ride anytime.
Green, good to go. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
What I also like about it, and I didn't even know this was a thing. If you follow us on Instagram, you're normally talking to me if you comment or DM or anything. It's me. So I was DMing with someone and they were asking, like, is there a way to filter, like click on a land and see all of the attractions that are in that land? And this was someone who's going for the first time and they didn't want to get lost. And there is a way to do that. And I thought that was really interesting. And then if you filter by land, comes out with all the attractions. Then if you click on the attraction, there's tons of information about that specific attraction. Yeah. So really our app isn't just for wait times, not just a place to put your touring plans. There's so much information in this little app. And if you're wondering why it's like kind of like plain Jane, it's to use less battery on your phone.
Yeah, so, it's not the prettiest app, but it works.
Yes. So again, shameless plug for our app. Let's see. Amanda said, can you just do, this is pertaining to the one fast pass tier for the Hollywood Studios thing that we talked about earlier. Can you just do one fast pass, then add others, or do you have to do 3 before you add?
This is a good question. We were actually talking about this on our team meeting last week.
Yeah,
we don't know.
I saw that brought up.
We don't know. I'm not sure we've actually discovered this yet, but this is the kind of thing that we should go and test. If you just get the one and then experience that, like use it, Can you
Can you
now
make
get another
another
one, or do you have
for
to
the
make the
first
other
tier?
two second tiers before you can get the? I don't know. I don't know. I'd be curious to see if anybody has tried this.
But you could make one for tier one and then go to another park.
Well,
Does that
yes.
make
Once you
sense?
once yes, I believe you can. Once you go to another park, it resets, right? You can go and make others for other park.
Ooh.
Why does that sound wrong? That sounds wrong
It
to me.
doesn't sound right, but now I'm super curious. Like, could
Yeah,
you
me
make,
too. Steve
because
would know.
you couldn't do
Steve knows.
two tier ones at two different parks. That sounds like cheating
Yeah.
the system somehow. Oh man, now I'm getting
Check
like,
Steve in the comments. I bet you he knows the answer to that one.
help, Steve. You're our only hope. Let's see. Okay, Carol has heard of a lot of people saying that their strollers have been stolen while in Disney. Can you padlock them while on the rides? I have not heard this. I'm sure it happens. I've not heard it.
Do they mean their own personal stroller, or
I
they
would,
mean the Disney strollers?
I would assume any stroller.
Okay.
I don't know that you could padlock it just because sometimes the cast members have to move your stroller for different reasons.
Yeah, I can't imagine they'd let you do that. No.
Yeah. Um,
But that's unfortunate. I mean, that's too
yeah.
bad. Um, I suppose one thing you could do is just mention it to a cast member and say, like, look, you know, well, they're not gonna, I guess, watch it for you, but you might have to have, if you're really concerned about that, you might have to have, like, do a child swap or something and have
Yes.
someone watch the stroller and then switch out. Good way
Yeah.
to get double ride, maybe.
Whether I'm lucky or not, I have been going to Disney with my kids for 5.5 years, and we've never had a stroller issue.
Same with me. I've never had that.
Yeah, and your kids are a lot older than mine.
There's a great tip in the unofficial guide where someone wrote in and had a tip for that where they said what you do is if you've got little kids, you take an unused diaper, you pour a little root beer on it, and you hang it from the handle of your stroller. Perfect defense. No one's ever going
No
to touch
one's
that
gonna
stroller.
steal that.
No one's going to steal that.
That is so funny. Oh my gosh, I kind of love that. Um, oh, and I do see that Steve did put the link to our touring plans down
good.
in the thread. So thank you,
Thanks, Steve.
Steve, for doing that. Oh, and Amber said, no, Carol, you can't padlock. Here's the thing. Cast members move the strollers to make room for more. So
Yeah.
this causes a lot of people to think that it's been stolen. Yeah, that's
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
I was going to bring that up as well, and then I started talking about other things. So
Yeah. It
thank you
probably
for
wasn't
bringing that
stolen.
up.
It was just moved, and yeah, that's unfortunate.
And they will move it for you for like what was it? It's an Animal Kingdom attraction. What is it? The Kilimanjaro Safaris. I think they move it like through the queue.
Yeah, you have to dump it at the one side of the queue, and then you get it on the other side when you exit. Yeah, there's a few attractions like that where actually the stroller pickup is quite a ways away from where you drop it off. So
Yeah, and you're like, where do I go for this?
yeah.
But let's see. Derry said, I can attest that the Lines app can help you tremendously in the moment, even if you have to redo your initial plans. We used it in January 2018 when the parks were way more crowded than predicted and still had a great trip doing everything we wanted. So
that's
yeah,
great.
thank you.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. And Jeff said, have a more general touring plans question. Is there a point where crowd levels get to the point where having a touring plan doesn't make a noticeable difference? For instance, I've seen some YouTube videos of Christmas where it looks like you can't move, so even mobility around the park is difficult.
Okay. I see what you're getting at, and the answer is actually the opposite of what you think. When it's really, really crowded, like at Christmas time, that's when the touring plans shine.
It's
They do
meant to
great.
work during those
It's
10
meant-
out of 10.
Yeah. When it's really, really low crowds, that's when the touring plan is not really useful because
Right.
everything's a walk on. It doesn't matter what order you ride the attractions, right? But we've actually done field tests at Christmas where we've had two families, two equivalent families go and experience a list of attractions. One family follows the touring plan rigidly. The other family kind of makes their own intelligent decisions. And by following a touring plan, we actually saved family about 4 hours of standing in line.
Yeah.
So that's a direct comparison, live in the park during a busy time of the year. Like it just totally works. Now there's one. I got a great letter the other last week from a user who did a really cool experiment. She was curious about differences on crowd levels on 2 different days. So like one day was an 8 and one day was a 6. And she had built a touring plan, the exact same touring plan on those 2 days. And she wrote in because she noticed that there was almost no difference in the wait time of the touring plans on the 6th day and the 8th day.
Wow.
And this is a great message, I think, for our readers to hear, our users to hear, because it's absolutely true. If you follow a touring plan, an optimized touring plan, that the crowd level actually doesn't matter that much because you're optimizing it, right? You're already kind of
Right.
beating the system and you're waiting the absolute minimum. So this is a really good thing to remember, that you should do your own experiment like that. If you're deciding between whether to go on a day that's listed as a 7 or a day that's listed as a 6, put in your touring plan for both of those days and see how different it is. It may not be different at all, which
No.
means decide on which day based on something else. Maybe the weather, or maybe you wanted to work in a break day, there. So there are times where if you're following a touring plan, you don't have to worry so much about what the crowd level is. And I think that's a good tip.
Well, it's interesting that you brought that up, because I received a question from someone on Instagram. I don't know why I keep plugging Instagram today. It's just, I get all these questions there. And they said, there's 2 days in September we could go to Hollywood Studios. It's a day when we're staying at a Epcot area resort where we could walk there, but it's a 10, or when we're staying at a Magic Kingdom area resort, but it's a 6.
Okay.
Which day should we go? And I'm like, Galaxy's Edge is going to be busy anyway, but I would personally go when you're staying at the Epcot area and use a touring plan, even though it's going to be a 10 out of 10, because you can walk there, you avoid the buses and having to do that. And really, the touring plan is meant to work on those busy days, and you're not going to see much of a difference anyway. So
Yeah.
kind of going off of what you were saying.
Yeah, it's true. People see a 10 and they just, freak out. I mean, rightfully so.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody wants to be
scary.
in a park on a
Yeah.
10. But, because you have the touring plan, you're already way ahead of the curve. So it won't affect you as much.
I agree. All right, let's go to some other questions. I hope that I'm not rambling too much, you guys. I just get really excited learning from Fred and Steve whenever they chat with me, because this is not my side of the brain at all. I'm like the artsy person. I do not do well in math. I went to tutoring every day for geometry. I was terrible. So math is not my thing.
And you do not want to see me on Instagram. So that's for sure.
We complete each other. So let's see. Steve said, as far as our Fast Pass question,
All right.
you can do 2 tier 1 at 2 different parks.
Okay, so you can do it. It sounds wrong, but you can do it.
Oh, that's like a really nice little hack, I guess. And let's see. Do you see any questions that you want to answer? Do you see any?
Yeah, I had a question about the impact of D23 at Disneyland.
Oh, yeah,
it's a good one.
Let's go to those. All right.
And Disneyland is interesting because the Anaheim Convention Center is very close to the parks, and so I often get questions about the impact of these conferences and these different events, and the answer, it kind of depends on the event, because a lot of the events schedule things during the day, and so you really don't see a big impact during the day. But then in the evening, once the event is over, everybody rushes to the parks. And that's kind of what happens at D23 and some of these other events. And another kind of quirk of the crowd calendar is that we kind of cut off the day to the peak time of the day, between 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. That's when we look at the wait times to determine the crowd level. And so if there's a big rush of people that come at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m., that's not really accounted for in the crowd calendar, because by then most people have finished their touring. So it's important to know that these events like D23 will bring a lot of people to the parks. But again, you might not see the increase in the crowd level because we're only looking at the 10 to 5 at the key attractions. So
That makes sense. They're mainly doing the evening because they've been at D23 all day.
That's right, yeah. So if you happen to be visiting the resort during an event like that, as long as you hit the parks early and follow something close to a touring plan, at least in the morning, then you really shouldn't notice a huge impact in crowds.
Yeah. Well, we'll just stick with those Instagram questions.
Sure.
With Star Wars Galaxy's Edge crowds getting out of control this is several things. With Galaxy's Edge crowds getting out of control for Christmas and prices going up, do you think Universal will pull some first-time Disney travelers to basically to them? And will it be like a
Yeah,
noticeable difference?
I think so. I think Universal is going to benefit from people going to Central Florida. I think absolutely. I also
Yeah.
think that Universal has a lot to offer. I mean, we talked about at the beginning there how they just
Yeah.
launched the new Hagrid ride, and it's
Hmm.
incredibly popular. Even I didn't expect it to be that, popular.
It's
Um,
just insane. Why do you think they're having so many maintenance issues right now?
well, I mean, that's a whole nother question. I can only assume because it's new, it's going to go through some growing pains. And I think it's just so overrun with people, and they're just trying to kind of maximize the attention it's getting that maybe they overran a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, so that's part of it. That will all settle down throughout the summer, I hope. But anytime you have something new, I mean, we saw that at Galaxy's Edge as well. Smuggler's Run, it didn't run 100% of the time through its first 3 weeks. There were times when it was down to, little maintenance things I had to, check on. So that's kind of normal. The problem with Hagrid's motorbike is that there's just so many people. I mean, it's 6, 7 hours of a wait. It's just kind of ridiculous. So
Historically, I'm sorry. I'll let you finish and then ask my
no,
question.
that was it. Go ahead.
Oh, historically, has Universal had these kind of issues with openings for rides, or do they normally have a better structure for, um, I guess, lines and queues?
They normally have a much better. Yeah, I don't recall any situation like this where we've had. Well,
Yeah.
the waits that we've seen at this Hagrid's ride are broke all the records. I mean, it just was nuts. Um, so this is the first time we've seen anything like that. Back when they opened Diagon Alley, we saw crazy crowds as well, but it was much more
Hmm.
organized. They had something like the reservation system that Disney did at Galaxy's Edge, where it kind of controlled the flow of people in and out.
Sure.
But this is just one ride, so it's kind of it's kind of an exception, and we certainly have not seen anything like that before.
It'll be interesting to see how their virtual queue works because they have that for other attractions. And does that
Yeah,
work pretty well? I've
it
never
does.
used
It
it.
does work pretty well. Yeah, they have it for what the Jimmy Fallon ride, a similar
Yeah.
thing where you, yeah. No, it works. It works pretty well as long as people understand how it works. So I would, make sure you take the time to read online about it, how it works. Also talk to the team members when you're there to
Hmm.
get information about, what's the best way to, to do this. So yeah, whenever they have something different like that, it's important to kind of understand about how it works before you get there.
Well, and from what I understand for the Galaxy's Edge virtual queue, everyone in your party has to have a Disneyland ticket. Everyone has to be there. Then you get your virtual queue or you sign up for it or something. Is that how it works? Like, where do you sign? Do you sign up for it in the app?
I don't know. I'm not sure how they're going to do that. That's a good
Well,
question. Another good question for Steve.
yeah, somehow everyone in the party has to be there, I think. And then you get your virtual queue time and then they'll like message you in the My Disney experience
Huh.
and then you'll go. So it sounds interesting. And then they have same day Oga's Cantina and Savi's Workshop reservations, which
Nice.
I'm very excited to do
Me too.
both. That will
Yeah.
be fun. Because are you going to be there for Walt Disney World opening day?
I'm going to be, so Disney has their Disney Data and Analytics conference the week before it opens. So I'm going to be there for the conference. Um, and then I'm hoping that they're going to do some annual pass previews right around that
Yeah.
time. So yeah, I'll be
Oh,
there for that week before. But after that, I'm probably not going
lucky.
to go until the fall. So,
Yeah.
so I'm
Oh,
curious to see what
awesome.
happens. But yeah,
That
it'll be
would be
fun.
great if they give you a sneak peek. That would be
Yeah,
so
we'll see.
cool. Okay, so just Ivan answering his question because it's really quick. So using an optimized plan for the 4th of July is the way to go. I mean, using an optimized touring plan is always the way to
You
go.
could never go wrong. At least for the morning, like I said, like you can kind of, and that's typically what we do. I mean, I'm the touring plans guy, and I typically, if I'm there with my family, I'll stick to it to the letter for the first 3 or 4 hours
Hmm.
that the park is open. After that, you can pretty much, because you've done all the bottlenecks, right? So you can, if
Right.
you want to see a show or ride something a second time, you can kind of, go out and do it willy nilly. But you've
Hmm.
got to stick to the plan that first half of the day.
Yeah. And what I like about it is I'm someone who's very type A. I like a plan. I like to be organized. And instead of just kind of flying by the seat of my pants, I like to have the plan in front of me, having all the attractions I want to do right there. It just keeps me just very organized.
Yeah.
Steve said you can, for the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge virtual queue,
Oh yeah.
you can use the app or go to a fast pass kiosk. Yes,
Okay.
there's something to do with that.
Makes
so thank you
sense.
for telling me to sign up for the virtual queue, and all of the guests of the party need to be at the park. Okay.
Right. Makes sense.
Back to our questions. This is also an Instagram question. Are you
Okay.
seeing lower crowds this June when compared to last June? We kind of already answered that.
Yeah, it is. It's lower. Summer in general has been lower the past several years. But
Yeah.
assuming you're talking about Disney World, yeah.
Yes.
This whole May, this is a good tip too. Hate to give away the secret, but May, June time is really becoming a nice time to visit the parks.
Mm-hmm.
Crowd levels are really manageable. Like we're not seeing anything extreme. Like once you
Yeah.
get past that Easter rush, it's pretty quiet. Like for the end of April, May, right up through even Memorial Day. Like if you were looking for a long weekend throughout the year to visit the parks, Memorial Day weekend is not that terrible compared to
No.
other long weekends. And you know the weather is usually pretty nice. I mean, as we're getting into June, we're getting more of the summer rainstorms, thunderstorms coming through in the afternoon. But boy, May, June is really becoming a nice time to visit the parks for low crowds and decent weather.
I completely agree. I went end of April, early May this year.
Yeah.
I saw crowd levels of like 3s and 4s.
Yeah, and that's typical. It used to be you would see that in September, and you can still find those in September.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with September is that everything kind of goes up and down with the party schedule, right? So you've got days
Mm-hmm.
where it's
Mm-hmm.
really quiet because there's a party at the Magic Kingdom that evening.
Yep.
And then when you get like to a Saturday, Sunday where there's no party, the crowds are huge because it's the only day that it's open late, right? So you kind of have this really up and down pattern that happens in September. In May, every day is a 3 or a 4 or maybe a
Yeah.
5, you know? So it's really steady, really quiet. It's a nice time to go. Plus, I'm a
Yeah.
huge fan of the festival at the Epcot in the spring. So yeah,
Nice weather too. It's just a good time. It's a pretty time to be in
it
Florida.
is. Yeah, it's a good time.
I went and it was really hot. It was like high 80s, low 90s, which I mean I'm from Minnesota, so that's hot
Yeah.
for me. But hotter than I feel May normally is, and when I don't know. Maybe I'm just
No, it was. It
going.
was a hot May for sure, but it's still not July. It's nothing like the humidity and
No.
the storms that you get in July. So,
Yes, and I will be going late July this year.
oh boy,
So
have fun.
if you see me, say
Bring an
hi.
umbrella.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, let's do some more questions. This is a Facebook question from Jennifer. Curious as to why the crowd calendar went up 9-ish days prior to the opening of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Is this the unknown effect that forces it to a 9? I mean, oh gosh, I don't know if she's talking about Disneyland or Disney World.
No, I
Shouldn't
think she's talking
say.
about Disney World. Yeah, she's talking about the week before it opens.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a bit of a mystery for us as well. Our models were predicting that wait times were going to be busier going into the opening of Galaxy's Edge. One thing I know is that a lot more schools are going back earlier now. So we're seeing that the end of August, which used to be a really good time to visit, is now becoming less so because I think people are waiting for that summer rush to end, and then they're going at the end of the summer, kind of right before school starts. So yeah, so we're seeing some increased crowds that time of year, and I think that's going to be people going and taking advantage of the previews, the annual pass previews. Yeah, so I think you have to kind of watch out. The one thing I would say for sure is that unless you really, really care about Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, you're best to just avoid the studios, altogether.
Yeah.
Plan like if I was looking to plan my vacation, I wanted to see Galaxy's Edge, but I didn't want to be involved in the that didn't have to be the first one through the gate. I would go next May. I would look for next May, and I would book a 7-day trip, 7 to
Yeah.
10 day trip next May, and visit then because I think it's a good time to go, and it'll be very, very busy, but it will have died down enough that
Right.
it's not so crazy like it's going to be in August. So
Well, and by then, Rise of the Resistance will be open and we'll have,
another reason. Yeah.
stabilized a little more. Because, if you think it's going to open maybe in a few months, that still gives it plenty of time for people to experience it.
Sure.
So, then the spring break crowds are over as well.
Yes.
But which brings me to another point. In our crowd calendar, more schools are taking those fall breaks now. So isn't October, I believe, looking to be as busy as spring break crowds at some points because of those fall breaks?
Yeah, October has really gone up in recent years. I think the Halloween parties are becoming a lot more popular. Like
Hmm.
if you just look out, if you have to kind of think about the 12 months um, as a whole, right? So where in previous years lots of people were going in the summer during their summer break.
Hmm.
Well, if they're not going in the summer like they used to, when are they going to go, right? They're going to have to
Right.
find other times of the year to go.
Yep.
So they're going to go in their fall breaks. So you're going to see it, some of those are going to appear in October or September. They're going to go at Thanksgiving. They're going to go, maybe not so much at Christmas, but they're going to go like Martin Luther King. The Martin Luther King holiday in January is becoming more popular. President's Week, President's
Yep.
Day is always popular.
Hmm.
So they're going to go at these other little times of the year when they have a little bit of a school break. Um, and October, unfortunately, is one of those times where we're seeing we're seeing some. I think last year we saw some tens, like 3 or 4 days in a row of tens in October. That's really
That's
rare. So
crazy. That
yeah,
just doesn't happen from my experience, but it's just kind of how the school schedule is changing and how people just don't really mind as much bringing their kids out of school. I mean, that
yeah.
just didn't really happen when I was younger. Also,
It,
my mom was a teacher, so that's probably why.
right, yeah, yeah, true. It's also because the park hours are shorter in the fall. So unlike the summer when, you could really do like a split day at Magic Kingdom where you could go in the morning, you could take a 4 or 5 hour break, and then you've still got a full evening at the park. You
Hmm.
can't really do that
Hmm.
as much in October when it closes at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
So the crowds are a lot more concentrated. Like
Yep.
people tend to stick around during the day. So that's going to increase the wait times as well. So
Um, okay, lots of questions. So Brianna said, do you recommend May or the first week of December 2020? I mean, Fred's kind of been saying, and I completely agree that May is a really good time to go. He even said this in, I think the first podcast you were ever on with Brian and I.
oh yeah,
Brian and I host the Touring Plans podcast, Brian McNichols. So check that out. It's a good podcast. Yeah, you said that. You said May is becoming kind of the best time to go nowadays.
yeah.
Um, but first week of December, is that still a good time to go? It used to be like the week after Thanksgiving, first week of December. Is that still good?
It's still good. You've got Christmas parties to deal with, so it's a bit of
Yeah.
a scheduling issue.
Hmm.
But if you can deal with that, if you really don't like the hot weather in May and June,
Yeah.
then the first week of December is a great time to go because you're going to get the moderate, middle of the road crowds. They're going to be between a 4 and a 7 or maybe an 8 at the most. So it's a trade-off, right? You're not going to have that super hot weather, but you're going to have to deal with the scheduling issues of how to work in your Magic Kingdom
Hmm.
time
Hmm.
around the Christmas parties. So
One, I will say, I went around that time, like the Sunday after Thanksgiving last year.
yeah,
And I mean, we got same day fast passes for Slinky Dog Dash, Alien Swirling
nice,
Saucers. It was really not a bad time to go at
good,
all.
good. This year,
Um,
it's important to note this year Thanksgiving is the latest it could be, right? It's November
it,
28th.
yeah, it seemed
So
early last year for
it
some
was early
reason.
last year, but this year it's going to be late. So that first week of December, it's probably a really good time to
The
go because
28th.
the
Wow.
20th of November. Yeah, so
Wow.
that if you're going that weekend, like the 30th and 1st of December, that weekend, that week is going to be quite slow because the Thanksgiving rush will just have ended. So
Hmm.
I don't think that's a terrible time to go. I think that first week of December is not a bad choice.
Yeah. Jennifer said, why would it be busy days prior to opening? You're talking about Galaxy's Edge. We just talked about that, so you can just rewind this stream and watch
Yeah, it's also about
that.
the fall, the breaks, the summer breaks as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, ugh. Brianna said, as far as the busyness of October, is that the first week of October or the mid to late October? Our crowd calendar, I would just refer you to that if you're looking for specific dates because
Yeah.
we go about a year in advance, right, Fred?
Yep.
365 days?
Yeah, 12 months.
Yep, 12 months. So I would just refer you to that. Just you can basically type in Touring Plans crowd calendar and it will bring you there on the Googles. Rebecca said, I love the Touring Plans website and app. Are there any plans to get touring maps included in the app like the ones you get when you look at your optimized touring plan on a laptop?
Well, that's a good question. We don't
That
currently
is a
have that
good
in the app. No.
question.
Yeah, we find most people that like the maps tend to print them out and bring them with them.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's a good point. We should add that to our list of future development.
Yeah, just like a
Yeah,
baseline app or a
yeah.
map.
Actually,
That
Brian's
is.
been working on some great maps for us recently. So
Oh, they're so good and
yeah, they're really good.
detailed.
Yeah,
We should tell them about this after this
we should.
stream.
Yeah.
Jesse saw our story on Instagram, and that's what led her here. Thank you for
Yes.
joining.
Awesome.
Right. I guess Jesse could be a boy too. Thank you, Jesse. Let's see. Linda said, is the morning extra magic hour starting at 6 a.m.? So extra magic hour only for resort guests as it is traditionally, or will that include annual pass holders? Resort guests, I would assume,
Yeah, it's
right?
just gonna be resort guests.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, these questions are coming in so fast. They keep
Oh, good.
skipping up on me. We are going August 20th to 25th, and my kids love Toy Story. How would you plan to visit Toy Story Land and avoid those AP previews? We have park hoppers, just rope drop, Toy Story Land.
Get there early, go straight there, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I don't think that should be an issue for you. When will Disney release park hours and extra magic hours for Christmas, New Year's of this year? I get this question a lot, like probably at least once a week, is how far in advance is Disney release their park hours? So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. It depends. Typically, oh, actually, Brian's the person to ask for this, but because he keeps track of all this stuff. But typically, I want to say like 5 months in advance is when we'll get the first kind of heads up. Now, I'll give you another secret. We actually try to predict the park hours. One thing we have to do to get our crowd level predictions is that we have to kind of guess on what the park hours are going to be. So if you go to the crowd calendar page on the dates that you're going to visit, it'll give you kind of a rough estimate of what we think the park hours are going to be.
Yep.
So, and it ends up being pretty close to what, Disney announces.
Yep.
However, I would also warn people that when Disney first releases the park hours, they're often just kind of a placeholder. They're
Yep.
not actually what's going to end up being the park hours. We see this quite often where we actually, we don't trust what they put there. We put our own park hours in because we know they're going to eventually change them. So just be aware that, don't put too much weight into what they release initially.
Yeah, I would agree with that. What normally happens is Disney changes the park hours probably up to like 3 weeks before the actual like day. So like what I'll notice is sometimes I'll make like a early breakfast reservation so I can kind of rope drop without rope dropping. And it'll be 3 weeks before my trip, and they'll put in like an early like extra magic hours or something.
Right.
And so, yeah, it'll change up to like 2 or 3 weeks beforehand.
Oh, it
so
can
just
for sure.
and that happens pretty frequently, I would say. So
It
just
does.
keep
Yeah.
checking those hours as it gets closer to your trip, because you might have to do a little bit of maneuvering on your park days. So
Yeah.
just something to keep in mind, because I know that irritates a lot of people, and they're like,
It
oh,
does.
this happened to me and I made these reservations already. It's like, yeah, I know, it sucks.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. We are going in mid-November, family of 6, 2 kids, 2 grandparents, parents. Wife and I have Christmas party tickets. Oh, that's so exciting.
Nice.
Is it best to avoid Magic Kingdom on party days? Our plan had been to do Magic Kingdom in the morning, take kids back to the resort for break, and then head back to Magic Kingdom for the party. Would we be better off at a different park on the party day? I have my own thoughts, but I want to hear yours.
Ooh, okay. In terms of wait times, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
On those park days when the park closes early, think about it, right? If you didn't have party tickets, would you go to the Magic Kingdom when it closes at 4 o'clock?
Yeah.
Probably not, right? So
Yeah.
you can go that morning if you get there for rope drop, and you can do a lot of touring, all the fun stuff in the morning. Take your break, and then come back for the party at night, and you can see do all the festivities and
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to do it.
I agree. I think that's like a hack that I think a lot of people should know. It's a great, especially if you're a park hopper, or if you have park hoppers, is to go to Magic Kingdom the day that there's a party, because it's going to be a lot less busy. I think that if you have an annual pass, go ahead and go to Magic Kingdom that day. However, if you just have like a 5-day ticket, your ticket's probably better off being used somewhere else, or maybe that could be a pool day that day.
Yeah.
Because again, you're kind of using up a day at a park that you're going to get 8 hours at later on in the night.
Yeah.
If
True.
you stay till midnight. So that's kind of how I think of it when people are like, like, oh, should I go to the Christmas party? Yeah, and you should use that as your park ticket for the day, because you get in at 4, the party's till midnight. That's a huge chunk of time at the park.
It's
so
true. Yeah.
What we use it for is a pool day, and we just don't do a park at all that day. So that's my 2
That's
cents there.
a good choice too. Yeah.
Let's see. How early should we get? Oh no, my question. Okay, how early should we get to the park without the extra morning magic hours? Ivan, is this for Galaxy's Edge? Okay, let me know because I feel like I want to answer this correctly and I can't do it right now. Will there ever be a touring plan for Disney Springs?
For Disney Springs, wow, that's interesting.
I know,
What
I
will be
don't
on
think
the
I've ever
plan? I
heard that.
guess. Yeah, all the shops to
I
visit and yeah, possibly. Yeah, possibly.
yeah.
I mean, there's no real wait times, I guess. But
It'd be
yeah,
more to, I
Disney.
guess, keep you organized, right? And how long it
Sure.
takes to walk
Yeah.
places.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah.
So whoever wrote that in, they should make one for us. We'll take a look at it. That's
I
like a good idea.
know.
Yeah,
That was Emily. Good
Emily.
question,
Thanks, Emily.
Emily. And I think she's left questions before. She leaves good
Okay.
questions. Is the first or second week of February 2020 a good time to go with lower crowds since it's before President's Day weekend?
Yeah, early February is not too bad. Although, like I said, we're seeing this kind of trend of increased crowds during that time of the year. I think if you're going that week, you should expect to have to deal with a certain amount of crowd level. It's not going to be super dead, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Unless the weather's really poor, then yeah, it's going to be quiet. But
Yeah.
it's certainly better than going mid-February when you have that the Mardi Gras and the President's Day rush comes through. So yeah, I mean, I would like I said, I would expect to have to deal with a certain amount of crowds, but you're better off than going later in the month for sure.
Ivan got back to us. Okay, Disney World, July 2nd to 5th, so 4th of July.
Hmm.
Best time to get to Disney without extra magic hours, I believe. That's what he asked. Again, they're coming in so quick, I'm losing my spot. Yeah, how early should we get to the park, Disney World, without the extra magic hours? Yes, that
Oh,
was the
okay.
question.
Yeah, so during the July 4th, you're looking at probably 90 minutes, I think that's safe. You could risk it in maybe 60 minutes, but I would tend to try to get there about an hour and a half before the park opens. That's, you know.
So get in line essentially 30 minutes before the park opens because the park opens an hour before the park opens.
Exactly. Yeah. Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then is that assuming that you are not using a touring plan or is that with one? That's my question.
Oh, I don't know if it would make a difference. I guess that's assuming you're using a touring plan. If you're not using a touring plan, then yeah, you can kind of freely go, as you wish. But that's
Okay.
assuming that you have a plan that you need to follow.
Okay.
Yeah.
We would like to do after hours at Hollywood Studios and Animal Kingdom. When do they release that for December? I've kind of noticed with the after hours events, they release them really late. Like
Yeah.
they'll release them like a month before the first one starts, like the first set of dates start.
Right. Yeah, that is kind of a
So
late. Like that's not much time to plan.
I've seen
No.
I've seen that twice now because I'll get those questions and then I'll look and then yeah. So yeah, that's my answer. It's not a good one. Do you see any other questions you want to answer? I just keep kind of asking you.
I did have maybe. Let's see here.
Steve said park hours for Walt Disney World park hours for Walt Disney World through 12/31/2019 are on our crowd calendar now. But as Fred and Angela just said, these early official hours often change.
Yeah.
So do not be surprised if the park hours change closer to your travel dates. Yeah. Okay.
And this is good for people to hear too. Like you really, it's kind of a weird thing for us to say because we're obviously in the planning game, but you have to plan, but also be ready to adjust. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
these things happen where the park hours change, schedules change. You have to be, diligent to make your plan, but also flexible to react to something that changes. So that's good for
You know,
people to hear.
it's so strange because I think about going to Disneyland all the time, but I'm so used to doing this hardcore planning for Disney World. And I hear that it's just so different when you go to Disneyland and it's so
It
much
is
more
different.
relaxed. And
Yeah.
I don't know if I could handle that. Like I went on a cruise in January and there was nothing to plan and I did not like it. I'm like, so I just like show up? Like That's it?
It's not right. It's not right. Yeah.
It was not right.
Don't worry. If when you get to Disneyland, we'll put you on a plan that you have to follow strictly. No deviating from it.
I almost need someone to just like hold my hand through this.
That's
But
funny.
I really want to go next year because I feel like, okay, let's put it this way. The first and only time I went to Disneyland, Disney California Adventure was not there.
Oh wow.
And I went
Going
for
way
like a
back.
half day, so I just tell people I've never been. This just doesn't
Yeah.
count.
No, it is definitely different. It has a lot more, more intimate feel, and the one thing I think about Disneyland is that you can really feel Walt's presence a lot more than Disney World, because it's like it's his first park, and yeah, it's cool.
That's why I want to go. I just want to feel that like classic nostalgia.
Yeah.
I just want to like soak it up. But I think I'd have to do Max Pass just because like I'm not used to doing it any other way.
Yeah,
You
probably a
know?
good idea. Speaking of Disneyland, we just got an update from a guy who's saying that they're actually controlling Galaxy from going in until other people have left. And so they're controlling it to keep it about the same size as it was, same capacity as it was when they had the reservation system. So this
Oh,
is interesting. So they're like they're letting people go in groups in a very controlled way. So that's kind of interesting.
interesting. Yeah, I'm sorry. My husband called right when you started talking, so I missed part of that. But it sounds like they're letting groups in a controlled way, is what you said?
Yeah, he says that they're keeping the landing capacity about the same number of people as the reservation period. So it's
That's
not just a free for
awesome.
all where they just everybody goes in. They're actually controlling the number of people in there to be about the
See,
same number. So
that gives me hope for Disney World. That
I
makes me
think,
feel
oh,
better.
Disney World executives are watching very closely what's
Oh my
going on
God.
at Disneyland.
I mean,
And yeah,
I thought I was going to be thrown to the lion's den on opening day,
yeah,
so I'm feeling a little more hopeful.
yeah. When are you going?
I'm going opening day.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Good luck.
going with the TouringPlans crew. I'm
Sweet. That'll
excited.
be fun.
Yeah, I'm bringing my brother. I'm making him be my cameraman because I'm like, there's
Oh,
going to be a
good
lot of
idea.
footage to get, so I'm
Yeah.
bringing 2 cameras.
Hope he's good at
Uh,
walking backwards.
well, he better be. He's got to
He's
figure
gonna
out.
learn.
Like,
Yeah.
he's taller than me too, so
Oh,
I'm bringing a GoPro, and I'm like, here you go, just stick your hand up.
perfect.
He's like
Perfect.
6'1", so it'll work. Linda has a follow-up question on, I believe, Galaxy's Edge. On
Okay.
the 2 days I can potentially visit Galaxy's Edge, Hollywood Studios is open from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. with a 6 a.m. opening for resort guests. Would you recommend visiting in the morning, like 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., or later in the evening between 6 to 10?
I would go evening in that case. You're such a disadvantage by showing up for the 9 a.m. opening with all the resort guests having been there
Yeah.
for 3 hours. There's no point. You're actually better off just going in the evening and taking your chances. And if you look at the pattern of wait times for really popular new attractions like the ones that are going to be opening at Galaxy's Edge, but
Mm-hmm.
also Pandora, Flight of Passage did this a lot. It had this really, really high peak in the morning around 10 o'clock, and then it just kind of slowly dipped for the rest of the day. I think we're going to see something similar for Galaxy's Edge, so that if you get there like 6 p.m., 7 p.m., I think there's a decent chance that you could experience the land and even get in a line and maybe wait something like 90 minutes or 75 minutes. It's a long time, but it's not terrible. I mean, you can do it. So
I don't want to monopolize your time. How are you doing on time, by the way?
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Matt Hochberg has a question just for you.
What?
Can Fred provide insight into his top picks for Canadian food at Walt Disney World?
Well, of course, Hochberg, it's going to be seafood. It's going to be all the seafood there. They fly it in from Nova Scotia, I'm sure, right? Top picks
They
for
actually
Canadian
do,
food.
don't they?
Of course.
They have Prince Edward
Of course.
Island mussels.
Yes, delicious.
My parents are actually flying there right now to Prince
Oh,
Edward
really?
Island.
Oh,
Yep.
wow, lucky them. It's a beautiful
They
place.
love it there. It's their favorite.
Good stuff.
So seafood.
Seafood, yeah. What else? Gosh, Canadian food. Well, you got to go. Cheddar cheese soup, obviously the Cellier. Like, of course, everybody thinks that we eat that all the time here because it's in Canada, but nobody I know in Canada has ever heard of cheddar cheese soup. I have to tell them about it, but yeah, just go to Le Cellier, eat all that stuff, and drink all that beer.
There you go.
It's
It's like same thing. It's what
Yeah.
you guys all eat, right?
That's right, yeah. I miss the
Well,
beaver tails, though. That's one thing about here in Ottawa, where I live. They have beaver tails downtown. It's kind of the thing. And they used to have them at Epcot as well. Did you ever have those? It's
Well,
like this.
you think from Minnesota we pretty much eat the same food, right?
Yeah,
But
pretty much.
no,
Yeah.
I mean, no, I haven't had a beaver tail.
Oh, yeah.
What is it?
It's like a big flat pastry that's meant to look like a beaver's tail, and you can put different ingredients on it. Like the basic kind of garden variety beaver tail is like cinnamon sugar and butter on a
Ooh.
big flat donut kind of thing. It's really good. But you can
That
also
sounds
get them
really
with
good.
Nutella or I mean they even make savory ones, but
Why would they get rid of that?
I don't know.
Sounds really good.
That's really good. Yeah,
Well, and then okay, is it poutine or Putin?
poutine.
Poutine.
Putin's
'Cause
the guy from Russia.
Putin's a Russian
Yeah, he's the guy from Russia. Yeah.
Okay. Now I feel dumb. I thought it was poutine, but then someone corrected me the other day. I'm like, "Are you sure?" And they're like, "Yeah, you're wrong." I'm like,
It's
"Okay."
poutine. If you want to
That's
know
what I
if you want to know the real French way to say it, it's poutine. So you have to pretend like it's a TZIN. Poutine.
Poutine.
Poutine. Yeah. That's
See,
how the
I'm
French
gonna
say
correct them next time. Be like, you know what? We're both wrong.
it.
Okay. All right. We're losing people watching, so I
Of
guess
course,
I have to
Hotspur
move
gets
on
us.
now.
Hotspur gets us off topic.
I know he makes us lose people. Let's see. I'm just kidding. Are we nuts to try for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge in late September? Think of an early morning expedition for extra magic hours. Is 5:30 arrival going to be too late? I think that's really the big question right now for the extra magic hours is when to arrive for them.
5:30. Well, you won't be the first in line. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Is it too late? Probably not. I mean, you're going to be in that second wave of people arriving.
Yeah.
But to me, it's like if you're going to arrive at 5:30, why not arrive at 5 or 4:30? Like you're getting up super
What's
early
the
anyway.
difference?
What's the
Yeah.
difference? So yeah, I mean, you could roll in at 5:30, but just be aware you're not going to be the first people in line.
And I guess the same question applies for Hollywood Studio or Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom.
Yeah, well, for there, I think it's less of an issue. You could arrive
Yeah.
you could arrive half an hour,
Half
45
hour.
minutes before. Yeah, I think you're going to be fine for that.
Depending on which band, which time for a concert for food and wine is best? Which time, like how early should you get there?
Or
Well, I
they're
guess
asking, yeah, I'm not sure. They have to.
which time for a concert for food and wine? Which show time?
I guess they're asking which one is best to go to. Do they have them on different times? They have them
There's a
throughout the
few
day, right?
Yeah, there's a few show times. Yeah, there's like a 5:30 or like an 8 or 6
Well,
or something.
typically the earlier show times are the ones that sell out sooner. So if you're more last minute, you're probably going to have to go to the later one.
Yeah.
But basically get whichever one you can, I would say.
Yeah.
If you really want to go, just try to book it as early as you can and
Otherwise, do the dining package.
or do the dining package. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's always a good way.
Okay. We answered that one. Let's move over to the questions that we pre-got. I'm going September 10th and worried about crowds for the week. Do you think Walt Disney World will get as lucky as Disneyland and have low crowds, or should I plan to use the extra magic hours? It's so hard to know right now
It
with
is hard
what
to
Walt
know.
Disney World's going to do. Like, until they announce things, gosh, it's hard
Yeah,
to guess.
this is another situation where you're just going to have to be flexible and kind of just wing it a little bit. Well, I think planning on doing the extra magic hours is always a good way to go. I mean, that's going to be your best bet, especially if you're staying on property. It's use this extra service that they've offered.
Yeah.
Will Disney World be? I think what they're saying is, will it be as dead in everything else like it was at Disneyland? I can't imagine that it would be the same. I feel like with Disney World, it's so driven by vacationers rather than by locals that
Yeah.
that people are still going to be on their holiday and they're going to want to take in everything else anyway. So I can't imagine that we'll see this kind of, dichotomy where you've got thousands of people at Galaxy's Edge and nobody at, Tower of Terror. There's going to be some people at the other parts of the park. So,
Yeah.
but I think it's totally doable. I think with a little bit of planning, I think you could absolutely go and have a great week, tour all the parks, and get some kind of a view of Galaxy's Edge. I think it's perfectly reasonable that people can do that. But as long as they're aware that it's going to be a bit of a struggle to get in and out of that part of the land, you know?
I don't think it's going to be as stressful as people think. If you just plan, like if you know that Galaxy's Edge is going to be crazy, the rest of the parks are just, I mean, it's just going to be Disney World. You know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we talked about this kind of 10%, 15%.
Yeah.
It's not a lot, you know, like that's
No.
an extra, extra 5 minutes waiting in at a typical attraction. It's not a ton of time. So I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised that they can actually manage it without too much trouble.
Yeah. Other times of the year are way worse, you know, as far as the crowds,
Oh,
when you
for
think
sure.
about those extra 10% higher. Yeah. Let's see. We won't answer that one. Okay, this is an interesting question, but it's a little lengthy. And then we will finish up the comments and then we'll be done. Not quite sure how to word this, but I absolutely love touring plans and use many parts of my membership, but I've yet to use an actual touring plan. Interesting. Let's see. For example, okay, I just got this a really long question. I have yet to use an actual touring plan you all have set that you assure will work best above any crowd level day. Okay, this is a really hard question. Basically, because like their son only goes on test track. My question is, do you think we are still maximizing our time without using a touring plan that you offer?
Good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this kind of falls in line with the stuff we've talked about. Are you maximizing your time? Definitely not. The only way to maximize your time is to follow an optimized touring plan. And the reason that the touring plans work so well is because they're not really intuitive, right?
Yeah.
If it was kind of obvious how to tour, then everybody would just do it. But
right.
And we get these kinds of questions all the time when someone builds a touring plan and they come back and they say, "Hey, something's wrong with your touring plan. It's telling me to go over here and go over there and do that and do this." And we say, this is actually, it might not look like it, but it actually is the optimal way to do it. So you're definitely not doing maximizing your time. However, is it going to increase the happiness of your vacation? Not necessarily.
Yeah.
If you've got kids that really only like to do 2 or 3 attractions and that's what you're going to go do it. Have a great time. We offer other services that are going to help, besides the touring plan. Do you have to use one? Absolutely not. But if you are interested in maximizing your time, there's really only one way to do that, and that's with the touring plan. So.
And if it's something that you wanted to try in the future, just create your own personalized touring plan and put test track in there 4 times.
Yeah, just do it for fun. Just make one for fun, and you don't have to follow it. Just go in there and make one and see what it says, and then and then go tour as you wish. So. Yeah.
That was an interesting question, though.
It is.
And also for those of you who are just kind of coming to this Facebook Live, maybe from Twitter or Instagram, and you don't really know what other tools we offer a reservation finder for dining reservations where you kind of plug in what restaurant you're looking for, the time and the date. We search that for you. Once we find that Disney reservation, we will email, text you, and then it's up to you to book it from there. It's a really handy tool. It's my favorite one that we offer on the website. I've gotten Cinderella's Royal Table. I've gotten Be Our Guest so many times.
Nice.
Really, really effective. We also have a room finder, so you can look through all of the Disney hotels and DVC bills, find your perfect room. And then we have a room request feature, so we can fax that room that you want to Disney like 5 days before your trip. So yeah, then we have the Lines app as well. We just got a lot of things on that old website. Okay. Did I miss anything, Fred, that you wanted to mention?
I don't think so. I think we've pretty much covered it. I mean, there's a lot still to be seen, and I'll be curious to watch to see what happens come August at Disney World. So it's going to be an interesting year.
All right. Well, I think I'll just finish up with 2 more comments, and then we will go. Misty said, "I love your touring plans, by the way. They worked wonderful for my sister and I during Marathon Week this past January.
Yes.
If it was crowded, we surely didn't know." Thank you, Misty. And Gina said, "Let me just say, I will never let my membership expire. Best out there for me, and I use it frequently. The reservation finder is life." That's very nice. Thank you. Okay. And I think that's good for today. If I didn't answer anything, I do try to go in after the stream and answer any questions that I missed. Otherwise, Fred, thank you so much for joining me today. It was great having you.
My pleasure. Super fun.
We always have fun.
We do.
Okay, we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.